Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I ask leave of the House to move amendments 1 and 2 as circulated in my name together.
Is leave granted? Leave is granted.
Thank you. I move amendments 1 and 2 as circulated in my name together. As many have discussed in relation to this legislation, there is a David and Goliath battle when it comes to victims and banks and financial institutions and the large telcos and social media platforms that are all too often part of scams reaching consumers. Under the current proposed legislation, to bring forward a claim for compensation, a victim will need to gather information from companies and the banks and the telcos to establish whether or not they have complied with the code. That is just simply not realistic. And I welcome that I've raised this with the Minister, and understanding that David and Goliath battle is important. The information is not readily available, and there is no requirement for the companies to hand this over willingly. And I think it's fair to assume that getting to that information with the scale of these organisations would just be impossible on the victims of scams. It's a David and Goliath battle. So my amendment goes some way to bringing power back to consumer by at least reversing the onus of proof when it comes to accessing dispute resolution, that it requires the companies and the banks, financial institutions and telcos involved in a scam, so a party to the scam, to provide the victims with a statement of compliance with the scam protection framework to then access that internal dispute resolution. Now, of course, associated with that needs to be what that scam protection framework ultimately looks like, and I appreciate and I have some questions in that respect. But what this means is that it's not just for the victim to have to establish the case from scratch, that they are entitled to dispute resolution and thus compensation. There is a reversal of onus which is important. It strengthens the integrity of the framework and it will ensure that vulnerable customers will be able to have a better chance and access at dispute resolution and ultimately compensation from the regulated entities. This amendment improves the internal dispute resolution process to require businesses to provide this statement of certification that they have complied with their obligation under the bill, and there will be a civil penalty provision that carries with this, and these certificates will be admissible in later proceedings. I do ask the Minister to make sure, though, that the explanatory memorandum includes details relating to the specificity requirements that will be placed in the rules to ensure customers have enough details to satisfy their compliance with their obligations. It might be by providing details that at a specific time the customer confirmed the name of the account to receive the funds through a confirmation of payee mechanism. Another example might be that a social media platform providing specific details of when they became aware of the scam activity and what steps they took to respond. It's important that everyone involved in this matrix takes some responsibility. Now, we've had discussions around should it be, for example, an automatic presumption of compensation against the financial institutions. I accept that there are often three elements to scams. We have the victim who has unwittingly consented to a payment being authorising a payment. We have financial institutions who have access to who that payment is ultimately going to, and so they bear a responsibility in introducing friction and in ensuring people are genuinely aware of what they are authorising. And then we have the telcos. I accept this. The telcos are a major player, especially when I look at social media and Facebook and Meta entities, in assisting in delivering scams to the victims. Right? They are facilitating that, and so they do also bear that responsibility. But of course, getting behind the wall of information of those kind of organisations is simply impossible for victims. So I do thank the government, I understand, for accepting that this reversal of onus is necessary when it comes to that compilation of information and that certificate of compliance so that access to dispute resolution can operate. I think it's important, though, for the government to continue being vigilant to make sure fair compensation is occurring, and I urge all consumers and victims out there to absolutely, you have to report scams. They profit and they thrive with the secrecy, with the shame or anxiety about reporting. So reporting and exposing scams is the most important thing that people can do.
The question is that the amendments be agreed to, and I call the Honourable Minister.
Thank the member. The government will be agreeing to the amendments which we agree improve the bill. And I can inform the member that an amended explanatory memorandum will be tabled.
I put the question. All of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it.